welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, and Disembodied Hands Quinty, Disembodied Beard John, and a Disembodied Ears Curran Eco. How are you all? Oh, lordy. Woof. I'm here. I'm clinging on by my fingernails. Fighting my sleep again. Guys, they never tell you what they never tell you about, like, when you start working out, okay? What they never tell you is that you're gonna be hungry, you're gonna mess up your body, like your body's signals are all weird, you have to eat more carbs, and you don't understand what that means until you try to fit it into your diet in a healthy way. Now I get how all these athletes are eating jelly donuts. They shouldn't, like, there are better alternatives, but I get it now. I get it now. Like, I've been doing pretty good. Like, I've stuck to my entire workout week this past week, which means I did 4 days of running and 2 days of CrossFit and had one rest day. And holy crap. I upped my carbs to like 200 grams a day. That's like 800 calories of what I eat is carbs, and it still wasn't enough, apparently. So now I'm doing more. I'm trying to figure out, how do I fit this in? And I'm up to 2,000 calories a day, and I'm still losing weight. It's weird. It's just weird. It's like, it appeals to my brain that wants to dial everything in, right? But at the same time, it's frustrating, because good sleep is, like, worth gold to me. And having disrupted sleep from low glycogen levels is, like, doing everything else right. Hey, Kuro. Kuro can't hear me. No, here's unquestionable motivation. Yeah, like most of us, I think. So anyway, I'm just grousing because I didn't get good sleep last night. Even though I tried so hard to, like, get extra, like get what I was supposed to get, and I'm just like, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. They never tell you about this stuff. They're like, you should exercise and eat less and, lose weight. And it's like, well, there's all these things. It's complicated. That's what humans hate to hear, right? We hate to hear it's complicated. But yeah. So, okay. Let us paint. Let us get out our colors. Black Knight. So anyway, I'm struggling, guys. I'm struggling today. I am sleepy. Where's my Twilight Shadows? Do I have my Twilight Shadows in here? Did I not put my Twilight Shadows in here? Then I put it somewhere else, and now I'm going to be kicking myself. No, there it is. Whew. I usually, when we're actively working on a model and I don't normally have the colors out, I normally get them out. David is still coughing, but it's more like, right when he lays down, right when he gets up. Like in the morning, he's coughing a lot because, he's been horizontal all night, and then his body has to adjust and try to get the gunk out of him. Oh. But I am very tired today. Oh, that's right. I was using Zenith, Creamy Ivory. Maybe I'll just go up with Zenith. It's usually when I start a new color scheme that I haven't done before and it's complicated, like here we're using Black Knight, Twilight Shadows, Glacier Blue, and I put some Creamy Ivory in here. With white, and then I went to a Zenith Plus. But sometimes when you look at this later, you're just like, oh, I could totally drop that out. And for here, I'm going to drop that Creamy Ivory in favor of Zenith White. They're both yellow off-whites. The Creamy Ivory is more brown, but I don't mind this guy. I don't mind if he gets a little bit more saturated, and it's probably not going to make that much of a difference. So I'm going to experiment with that. And this often happens because I'll often have just an extra step in there when I'm, like, doing my transitions. I do this with NMM Gold all the time, where I end up not using the yellow ochre color. I just end up swapping back and forth between, like, the rich leather base color and the lantern yellow plus white. So figuring it's not bad. Like, you don't have to commit to using a color in your highlighting just because you started with it. Like, if you have an alternative and you just decide to drop that out entirely and just go straight to something that's halfway here, then that makes it less complicated. It makes it more likely. I'm always telling you guys only do like 2 color mixes so that you can figure it out. So if I drop that creamy ivory out, I'm back down to just these colors, and I'm always mixing either that one and that one, that one and that one, or that one and that one. And so that's a lot easier to remember and to recreate if I need to do touch-ups than if I'm throwing in, you know, a drop of this here or there. So just something to consider. Always keep your mixing as simple as you can. And if in the middle of figuring out a new color scheme, you end up like, you know, noticing you don't really need a color, just drop it. Just drop it. If at worst case scenario, if it changes the color just a little bit, you can always glaze. So yeah, I did my runs this weekend. I got 4.25 miles in on Saturday. Was feeling really good on Saturday. Friday night I got good sleep, which means I really need to like look at look at what I'm doing. It also could be this just that I'm upping my training by too much, and I shouldn't have added in Sunday. So I have to figure it out, guys. I have to figure this out. I want my sleep back, dang it. I want my sleep so bad. I can do any amount of exercising as long as I'm sleeping well. But yeah, I gotta figure it out. All right, we're gonna continue with the hands and the arms today, and the face. I think we'll go up there, and since I've decided I like this blue, we'll just mix up our Black Knight and our Twilight Shadows. We'll do some spot mixes. If I was using a wet palette, this would be you know, even easier, just because I could, you know, create a spot mix that would stay wet. A well, it just means for me, I'm probably just going to create main wells of these colors, and then I'm going to do little spot mixes up on the upper surfaces of the palette if I need a brush full of a particular color, or I'm going to do wet blends on the model, depending on what I feel like. If I decide I do need an extra well that's full of a particular mix, I definitely will need one mixed with these mixed. So, and I did actually take down my Glacier Blue with Twilight Shadows, so I am going to do that. My Glacier Blue is never used pure if I look at my mixing record. So I'm going to automatically put in then 1 drop of Twilight Blue, aka Twilight Shadows. And then we're going to do, I think that's going to be our main skin color. We'll see how much more Twilight we need. And then I need to mix my Glacier Blue and my Zenith. And then I need to do it kind of in reverse. So let's go 2. I think I'm going to go 3. This is going to be a much more saturated, punchy highlight than adding the creamy ivory. I probably went too yellow there with my Zenith. I probably needed to add a little bit more white. The Zenith is pretty yellow. That's why it's Zenith yellow and not Zenith white. I'm going to pop some white in there. And we'll see what we can do. All right. So now I've got these guys mixed up. Or, sorry, on the palette. I will mix them up now. Going to add a little drop of water to each one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I should be using my, let's see. Yeah, I am using, yes, this is all 2.0. Olive just had to double check. This is all 2.0 versions. So I'm going to be doing, putting out a couple of things. Probably today is the $2 PDF for the metallics. There were some questions on my Patreon. Turgeon, you asked about highlighting and shading and all that kind of thing. We're going to cover those in upcoming videos. I really wanted that first video to be just kind of an introduction of best practices and things. And then we'll get down into the actual how to shade and highlight metallics in the next videos. And yes, I will cover numerous ways to do it. However, I'm going to answer you here on chat for one of those, Turgeon, and that is that although people have used inks, don't use like the old inks, like the dyes. Like, people originally used the dyes inks the calligraphy inks to work with metallics, and you can do it, but remember, it will bleed. And it doesn't bleed through flakes so much, so it's more if you're adding like other paint to your other paints to your metallics or something like that. But you can do it. It gives you some really vibrant effects, more so than using acrylic inks even, which are just, when it comes down to it, just pigments. But yeah, you can add, I mean, that's what metallic medium is for, is so you can add that stuff. I'll talk about it in the video. We'll do shading first. And whether I do it this month or next month just depends on how much time I have. I'm not chasing the YouTube rabbit anymore, so I'm going to more focus on my writing, I think, than the YouTube rabbit. I'll keep adding things to my YouTube, but the writing will gain me more over the long haul. I think I need another highlight. We'll see. We'll compare these. All right, that actually looks pretty good. Actually, it looks about right. So that blue, then, I might want to take up just one more level. But I don't know, it looks pretty good. Like, I really want to just kind of eyeball the transitions here. These are all about 5:1 paint to water. Since I'm doing a fair bit of blocking and wet blending, and I'm not so much layering. There. Kiki, no. Settle down. Good girl. But yeah, and then I'm also going to be putting out something. I had a new patron contact me with some questions because they had just gotten rid of they just switched from Games Workshop to Reaper, and they were struggling with Reaper, and they use a wet palette. So there are several, that's pretty much like almost everybody who's going to be getting into the line with 2.0. So I'm going to be doing a free PDF on my Patreon. That's for anybody. So even if you're not a free member, you can run over there and grab it. But it's going to be essentially 10 colors to start with if you want to try MSP now, like colors that are in a pretty good position and pretty good like place, even in MSP 1.0. And then at the end, there are going to be tips on how to work with MSP if you've never worked with it before. I ended up writing this guy a long email, and so I ended up just saying, you know what, I had to spend an hour of my day off doing this, so I'm going to actually repurpose it and use it as a PDF for everybody for the Patreon. Yeah, well, okay, when they're talking inks, they're probably talking acrylic inks. And they're probably using, like, the Chimera Velvet. You can absolutely do that. Now, if they're talking about traditional calligraphy inks, which are dyes, again, I just put out a PDF on this. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can consult the $5 PDF last month. But there is a big difference between traditional calligraphy inks and modern acrylic inks. Huge difference, both in the base that they're put in and in the colorant that is added to them and how it acts. So without, and the problem is nowadays that, like, people put out a class like that, but they don't tell you what it is, the difference. Like, they don't often even think about it, or they don't know the difference. So I'm going to assume that they're going to be talking about using, like, things like De La Rowney and Chimera Velvet with metallic medium or with your metallics. Sure, they're going to be great. It's just like adding paint, except it's like punchier, and in the case of it's a bit more vibrant. It's got a high pigment load. Like, it's nothing special, I guess is what I'm saying. It'll give you different reactions depending on what you use. But if you added and it'll make it thinner. So yeah, there's some things we can talk about. But at its baseline, guys, it's not like it's not crazy. Like, you know, like you can mix anything into metallics that you mix into regular paint. I hate to say that, but it's true. So yeah, I'm just not sure what inks they're dealing with. Now, that said, metallics are the only place I would ever use calligraphy inks on a miniature anymore. But I still wouldn't do it. Like, I have some beautiful, beautiful calligraphy inks. Don't get me wrong. Maybe I'll mess with it. But like, well, let's grab some of my sexiest ones. Yeah, here. So on occasion I write with fountain pens. So I actually do have fountain pen ink. And this is what people always used to talk about, because back in the day when I started miniature painting, they didn't have acrylic inks. So instead they had these, and look at that color. Look at that incredible blue. And then, this is one of my favorites, Oxblood, Diamantine Oxblood. Look at that red. See how deep and crazy and fiery that is? It's beautiful. It's like amazing color. And then, you know, likewise, there's some maroon red here that I picked up, which is close to diamantine. I can't get diamantine anymore, but it's got a beautiful color to it if you added it to gold. But the problem with all of these is they are dyes, and so they do bleed, and they act differently. They tend to be shiny, and that works with inks, right? Because you want, or with metallics rather, right? You want your metallics to be shiny. I have so many inks for my fountain pens. I have all different colors. I could go crazy. But the thing is that, for me, I don't want shine in my shadows when I'm dealing with metallics. Because you usually don't... There isn't a shine in your shadow. Unless you put it there. If you're doing, yeah, I mean, I guess it's just another technique, and if you like it, you like it. I don't think it's a particularly advanced technique. I think it's very friendly to more beginner to intermediate. But even then, you've got to remember, don't ever use those inks with your normal paints. Only metallics. And you could get into some problems if you're not working with a hypersaturated color scheme and you try to use hypersaturated inks. Just color problems. I mean, color composition, color theory stuff. Let's start putting this Glacier Blue plus Zenith. I'm going to go for the bright on the white, and then I'm going to do my transitions. So wherever I see a white, let's just back up since you guys have seen my colors. I guess one big reason that I would shy away from recommending artist calligraphy inks nowadays, honestly, is just the cost. Like, you're picking up a tool to do a very specialized thing, and it's gonna, cost you money, and you're only ever going to be able to use it with when you're working with one particular type of paint. And there are other tools on the market, like the acrylic inks, that will do, close to the same thing. They'll never quite match the vibrancy of the dyes, and that's partially due to translucency. But they'll get close. And how saturated do you really need to get? So I'm just pretty much going along with the Zenith here. Using my Twilight Blue to block in over the black. And then going up to my mix of Twilight and Glacier. And then the top part is the very vibrant Glacier. Oh yeah, the Kara, I heard she was going to have some actual free time now that she's or she'll be trying to drum up business more since she's had a career epiphany. Hopefully she doesn't get sucked into the Reaper trap, but she's too smart for that. She is the wildest. I shouldn't say that she has some free time because she figured out her job situation. Because when you're working for yourself, or job hunting, I'm not sure which she's doing. You have less free time. All right, so I'm using my Twilight Blue and Glacier mix. Hold on. There's the one I found. Fountain Painting, Trench Crusade with TMM and Velvet Inks. Yeah. Yeah, everything was full because everything went... David was really angry because he didn't realize that there was a queue and that you could try to log in early and get in the queue. He thought everything would open at 10 a.m. and of course there were already 4,000 people in the queue when he logged on in at 10 a.m. So he couldn't get any of the classes he wanted. He was kind of peeved. Kind of peeved being kind of an understatement. But yeah, he's specifically saying velvet inks, so you are dealing then with acrylic inks, which are pretty much just like paint. They're just a little punchier because of the superfine pigment, and being Chimera, they are hypersaturated. So pretty much what I would guess is he's going to be using a lot of washes and glazes over metallics to shade, which is pretty standard. So yeah, it's what that is a shaded metallics class that's just specifically geared toward velvets. But he is not using metallic paints to shade other metallic paints, which is something I also do not do. I will talk about it in the video. It is what many painters are kind of like go to first, because that's kind of what they're looking at. They're like, oh, I should just use a darker metallic for the shadow and a lighter metallic for the highlight. And it is possible to do that, but you get better results if you actually don't use metallic paints as shadows, in my opinion. But yeah, the Chimera inks especially are so close to MSP in consistency. Like they're halfway between... because they're concentrates, they're halfway between a De La Rowney and Reaper. In some ways, I think they're a little bit closer to Reaper. MSP. So they don't feel like inks, they're not super fluid. Just trying to get all my zenith here painted over, so if I see some black primer, I'm going to take my shadows, and you can and should have shadows on the upper parts of your models. It's just that they're going to be a lot lighter than on the underside. I'm going to actually get this in fixed focus here. I've noticed it's wobbling. There we go. But yeah, I'm going to be starting my paint job with the velvets myself this week. I've been prepping a model I want to use. I'm interested to see how it's going to go and where my frustration points are going to be with it. Because the stuff it does well is always fun, but the real gold of all of these paint line reviews is, what's my pain point? What is the pain point of using the thing? Because although everybody likes to know so-and-so product, such and such product is good at X, it is far more valuable if I can also tell you I really became frustrated with X, so-and-so product because of Y, right? Or Z. Because frustration is the hobby killer. It can make you just chuck a model. So chuck a model or bury it in your closet for all time. And I'm keen to see what the pain point with Chimeras is for me. Yeah, I think everything is probably sold out of any, from any decent instructor. I told David that he's doing it wrong. I'm like, if you want a class taught by Eric, what you should be doing is contacting Eric, asking him if he would come out here to the Bay Area to teach a small class, and organizing it, right? Having him out here to do a 2-day seminar. That's the best of all worlds. We can even put him up because we have a guest room, as long as he doesn't mind obnoxious dogs. And then you can ask him to teach exactly what you want him to teach. Instead of having to deal with his classes that he's teaching at Adepticon, you get to, ask him to teach something specific. And he was like, oh. And I'm like, yeah. I might just contact Eric. Maybe that's David's birthday present. Maybe I get Eric to come out and teach. And I put my time and energy into organizing it. And I touch base with the other Bay Area mini painters people. Yeah, see, that's the way to do it. We just need to get a place that can be used. I kind of wonder if I can rent a space at our local community center in Mountain View. It's just down the street. The problem is we don't have a local game store anymore. The closest one is 20 minutes away. So I don't want to try to get their space because it's just going to make it more painful for me to get home to Kiki. To let her out and stuff. I experienced that with the Mark Maslin's class. So we're just hitting all these muscles that have been defined by the zenith. And we're trying to keep track of kind of where our lightest light and darkest shadows are going to be. I can see some places I need to bring up. And I also need to bring up, I forgot that I needed to do this and make this color. That's a real highlight. Actually, I think I'm going to add just a little bit of glacier, pure glacier into that too. But yeah, so yeah, I think I'm maybe just going to do that, and we'll have to figure out how to contact Eric. Find out what he'll charge and figure out if we can make it work. Hey Lemon, how's it going? We are Ogre Maging today. I was just mixing up my highlight color because I realized I'd left it too. That's our transitions for the skin. Now we're working on, I did the belly and stuff last time, and now I'm working on the arms. I'm bringing the arms up a lot more. I'm trying to keep some dramatic shadows here, But there's a big expanse on the top of the arm here that is that's pretty exposed to the light. So unlike with the tops of the muscles that are just hitting it, I'm having to go a little lighter here. So that's what we doing. Those are our colors. I'm going to pop this back here so that I can get this guy going on here. But yeah, hello. Good morning in my case, good afternoon or evening to the rest of you. I'm also putting a little, I'm also putting a little extra info here and there, as I usually do, into the PDF for this video that I just put out on the Patreon. As usual, I have more room to kind of ramble on in the PDFs, so you're bound to get a little bit more info. But yeah, the highlighting and shading stuff is mostly going to be in a future vid. Just putting a bit of, here, let's get closer. Maybe I do need the palette in. Sometimes when I add a little white to the frame, I can see, there we go. So I'm just bringing up this kind of greenish highlight. I'll start bringing that up on the highest spaces here. Going to keep trying to minimize these shadow bits. And blending, like I am doing, I'm just brushing over the shadow to blend it in. Oh. Yes, the PDF will just have more info on the metallic stuff. And not a seminar just for David, but a seminar, it would be an area seminar for out here. Because Eric would need to recoup his costs. I don't know that he does one-on-one coaching unless it's extremely expensive. Because he does this for a living, last I checked. That means he ain't cheap, I suspect. I suspect he's the sort of guy who knows his value. Alright, so I'm pretty much just taking these blues and I'm just painting them over each other. I'm taking my lightest blue, not the green one, the greenish color, but the glacier blue. And I'm just painting it really lightly over some of these shadows. And as I do that, it's going to blend in so that I can get a nice blend like I've got coming. See, that's a real soft blend in there. Now, if I've decided that I've messed up and I need a little bit more shadow, I'm going to have to bring that back in. But I'll probably use my mixture of glacier and twilight shadows to do that. Probably want a little dark going with pure twilight shadows up here. So I'm going to paint my glacier blue and twilight mix over that just to soften that. And then we're starting to get more into it there. And again, as we discussed recently when I was talking about doing smooth blending with layering, it's a lot of work and it takes a lot of time. And you're constantly futzing until you get a really beautiful blend. But if you love beautiful blends, then you can get a lot of pleasure out of it. And the key is, honestly, just to relax and just do it and not get impatient with it. I get in my very happy place when I'm doing this, even though it takes forever. As long as the model is a really good sculpt and the details I'm painting are really beautifully done, I will be very happy doing smooth layering on a model, even if it takes me hours. That's looking nicer. but it's not for everybody. It's just something to be aware of. Like, you can do regular layering like I do on most of my models, where if you get really close, you'll be able to see the demarcation lines. But it also just looks good. I mean, Turtle here is a great example. This is not a Reaper model, but my Bardsong Turtle, like, he or she has all sorts of, like, you can see the edge highlights. You can see these aren't blending in, but the model still looks fantastic. So you don't have to get smooth blending to make a model look really good with layering. You can have like even hard cutoff lines like down here, but yeah, you don't need, you can see back here, you can see all my transitions. But it's still a great model, it's still a great paint job, and it didn't take me nearly as long, right? So that's the thing with layering, is that you can do it very, very quickly. You can do good fast with layering. Like, that turtle didn't take me very long, all things considered. It's the usual thing, actually, Turgeon, with these seminars. Often the person bringing in the painter, the high-end painter, is exactly in this situation where they have, like, they want to learn something specific from that painter, so they see if they can bring them in and have them do a seminar so that the painter can make the money that they need to in order to take, you know, a significant amount of time off from their regular painting. Alright, yeah, so we're bringing in, I'm going to take back this shadow a little bit by painting over it with the Twilight Shadows and Glacier Blue. Just going to pull it back. When my paint is thin, I can paint over it without covering it up, and this is actually why translucency works. Because when you do that, then you get that blended effect. This is why I say that, like, coverage is great for base coats and sometimes for wet blending, but otherwise you don't want coverage. You usually don't want coverage in your painting. Like, you don't need perfect coverage. I am going to mix up one more highlight. I think I'll take this kind of greenish one and I'll pop it over and add some white to it, just pure white, not zenith. Just to repeat for you guys, if you are highlighting with a zenith white color, for example, zenith yellow, if you're using a yellow off-white that has a significant amount of yellow, or if you're just adding yellow to your highlights to make them warmer, because that's what we tend to see in our world of our yellow sun, do not continue adding yellow for your highest highlight. Switch to white, otherwise it will not look natural unless you're painting something like Golden Hour, where the light is very yellow and it's coloring everything, including the top highlights. So for my final highlight, I will switch to pure white. Alrighty. So now we've got a 6th transition on the skin. Boom. There we go. We've got all our colors, which is kind of cool. I love this because you've got a very Twilight Shadows. The cool thing about Twilight Blue and Twilight Shadows in general is that it goes more purple. So we've got a very, very blue, you know, to green and blue to purple, but not fully to green and not fully to purple. So we're using that range of indigo to turquoise, which is a great way to highlight blues. So I said I was going to work on North of the Wind this weekend, but I ended up not. I ended up figuring out my read through because it was something that my mentor assigned me. And I also ended up starting a new set of ads. With my new blurbs. New blurbs. My hopes is that it'll get me a little bit more of a different audience. For the books. And I'm probably going to have to put out a new version, new edition, I guess, I don't know, of East of the Sun, because I can't change the subtitle on the book, and it's still the old, like, fairy tale adventure one, and that's just poison to search results for me, because, as I discovered, fairy tale's very associated with romance, so I may have to actually put out, like, a reissue, new edition, whatever, of East of the Sun in order to correct that. So I'll have to unpublish the paperback and then put out a new, totally the same version of the paperback. And then unlink the one and link the other. It's just crazy. Yes, exactly, Turgeon. That's exactly what we would be doing if we brought in Eric Swinson to teach out here. 100%. Alright, I'm going to get this highest highlight and start popping that in at the very top of things. And that's when things really start hitting definition land right there. I shouldn't if I link it, Marie. I'm going to talk to Matt about it and talk to my mentor about it before I do it. But if I'm really shifting to, like, coming of age, and I really should get rid of that. I really don't want to lose my reviews. I mean, the Kindle version will still be, so I'm kind of mucky on how that all plays out, because, the Kindle version won't change. It already has a corrected subtitle. And it said that it should all migrate over to the new version of the paperback, but I don't know. Amazon craziness. But yeah, I would like to fix it. I did find out an interesting thing, and that is that people who actually buy my books, like Kindle or paperback, have much better read through than Kindle Unlimited. Which is not always true, apparently. Kindle Unlimited often has better read through because people just binge. It argues that maybe I'm not reaching a binging audience, or that the people who are just not sure if my books are going to be for them are the ones who are taking a chance on it in KU, which does make sense. But yeah, I have a meeting with my marketing mentor coming up, so Gonna talk to him about that. Yeah, that's true, Rach. That's true. I mean, it's always been like the thing, right? It's like it's why when you do promos, I mean, doing the I'm probably gonna stop doing like Book Barbarian and stuff for a while and just do paid ads, just do Facebook ads because um, the one thing that like the email list stuff does is pretty much tank my read through numbers. I don't see a big boost in read through of West of the Moon after I run a promo because, as you say, people just grab it because it's like cheap. It's 99 cents, and then they don't touch it. So I think that's ceased. It was an effective marketing tool for me early in my author life, but I feel like now it is not. So I'm blocking in all these shadows down here with Twilight Blue, and I'm gonna go to the creases and everything. I'm gonna define that even further with the Death Knight Black, or Black Knight Liner rather. But yeah, that makes it even more like, to me, more imperative that I fix that subtitle on the paperback version. But anyway, that's my author life right now. I am still like psyching myself up toward getting on to North of the Wind, but I wanted to get all this stuff out of, like, I'm somebody who has to focus on one thing at a time, and I'm just come to that conclusion, and I need to just embrace it. Even though my brain wants me to try multitasking, it's just not that effective for me. So I want to make sure, like, now that I have the ads running for the new blurbs, that makes me happy. And we'll see how they do. And I needed to get this kind of, I'm trying to kind of get my book funnel kind of figured out and streamlined before all the other things that I need to do to make my books better, I want to do before I start North of the Wind. Like, I need to go, much as I hate it, I need to go through and check my back matter and make sure that each book is linking to the next book and yada yada. It's a pain, and that's why I've been avoiding it, but I have to do it. So this, when you're dealing with these rounded muscles, folks, remember to make your highlights rounded. So I'm making this an oval shaped highlight on this oval muscle. But yeah, I got a fair amount done on Queenmaker in November and the start of December, but I think I am going to just go back to it when I need a break from Bear Kings for a bit. Go use it as my palette cleanser, because I feel like I'm getting more interested in working on North of the Wind now. I just needed to take that little break. So here, this is also a rounded muscle. So even though I'm mostly hitting the corner here, I want to make sure that I get a round shape there. And the most dramatic muscles are where you let the shadow dip really dark before you hit that highlight. So like down here. Now there's a little, there should be a little bit of light on some of these transverse abs, so I'm going to add just a little bit. Oh, that's a little bit too light. I'll mix in some shadow. Just a little bit. I just want a tiny bit of light into these. There we go. So now I can make those muscles show up. Okay. Speaking of shadows, I want to get these abs there. I still see a little bit of the speckly. Looking for the specklies is a good way to catch where your primer still might show through. Sometimes it's hard to see in the shadows. That's looking good. Right, yep. Yeah, I mean, once I have 6 books out, it makes a different, it's a different story, right? 6 or 8 or 10. We shall see. But yeah, it was nice. It was a nice palette cleanser to get, to be able to work on Queen Maker for a while, and then to, you know, the whole Hawaii trip where I didn't do any writing. Just hung out with the fam. That was good. It was a good break. It was definitely difficult. Difficult to be working on that book for so long, and I think it's a sign to me that I need to drag my feet a little less on word counts per day. Alright, so I'm just touching up, evening out, making these pop a little bit more. It's a lot of work to put in on like a couple small sections of the body. Oh, I see I've got some print lines that I didn't quite get off. Or print nubbins. There were so many print things on this model. It's my only downside of this model. Otherwise, I love it. But the fact that there was just so many print things. Stringy print things. That said, I need to add up my my sales this past year still, but I think I definitely exceeded the previous year when I add in the KU reads, especially. Gotta add some more water to my paint. It's a bit dry out here lately. It's gotten really cold at night. Yeah, as long as we're making progress. Maybe I'll do the paperback, well, maybe I should probably do that sooner rather than later, so that it has time if we do have to rewrite some reviews. Hopefully that is not going to happen. Alright, just smoothing out this bottom part here. But I want the dramatic shadows here, so I want those darker than the shadows up here. This one's still a bit dark for being on the upper surface. So I'm going to paint my glacier blue very lightly in a light coat over that darker shadow. Obviously not full strength because I still want the shadow to show up. I just want it to go lighter. And that will minimize it a bit more compared to these really dark shadows coming in here, and that's more like what I want. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Oh, I don't think I'm capable of cranking out variations on the same story. I would get so, like, my ideation would get so sick of it. Like, there's just no way. Like, I mean, the themes often stay the same, but that's something you expect and want out of writers, right? When a writer like talks about specific themes a lot, it's part of what gives the feel to their writing. All right, so the hand here has some dramatic shadow. So I'm going to mix my glacier and my twilight for the first set here. This is a little darker here, so all the way down to twilight on the bottom part. So we're painting over that zenith. A little bit of light down here, probably bounced. And then once I've got the blocking in, then I start blending. So taking my glacier blue and kind of like painting it over the edges of the shadows that I blocked in to get a blended look. Even though the transitions are happening in a very small space. And I am going to wrap around a bit, even though my zenith doesn't so much. I want to wrap around that hand just a little bit. And you can make those calls if you feel like you need a highlight. Oh, that's awful. Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to think that I don't know, and maybe AI will get good enough at some point that it's impossible to tell the difference, but I don't know. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to write my stuff. I do feel like though because large language learning models are they're an amalgam of everything, right? I feel like they will lack individuality unless the author puts in a significant amount of work. But maybe I'm wrong there. And maybe, I mean, I know there are genres where originality isn't that important, so it really just depends on what you're writing. But I like to think that fantasy is one where creativity does matter and a distinct voice. So I will do a little bit of light down here because bounce light is going to be a thing, but not quite yet. Bringing in shadows, and then I have to blend them in. Yeah, for sure, Kodiak. Like, sometimes I use it to springboard add text ideas, like I'll give it like a text of I wrote for an ad in the past, and then I'll say, hey, how, and I'll give it my book's blurb, and I'll say, okay, how would you change it, right? And it's never something you can use out of the can. Like, I have to rewrite it. Like, but sometimes there's just one phrase or just one way it's put, and that helps to stimulate my imagination, and then I can take that and run with it. I'm somebody who springboards well off of other people's ideas. So, for my advertising copy, it's been useful. Nobody likes to write advertising copy. Hey, Twisted Oma. So we're emphasizing the highlight. We're taking the shadows fairly dark, but not crazy dark. right? Not it's because this isn't as turned away from the light as this area in here, right? This is still catching a little bit of light. Yeah, and I mean it's a good tool for a lot of things. Like I said, for ad text writing, for advertising text, I like it. Um, it's been very helpful. But yeah, it definitely. I don't remember who said it, but like somebody was kind of like something I read was kind of like, we've got this great AI tool and it can do so many awesome things with like factual, break down information and doing all this cool stuff. And yet people are trying to instead get it to do creative things. They want it to do the things that like humans are most suited for, right? Like they're trying to it's like they're pushing it to do the things that aren't even the most useful things like it can do. But yeah, it's like I said, I used a lot. Like I used it to come up with a quick list of in season fruits and vegetables for my state the other day. It was very useful for that. I didn't have to go and look up everything. Since I'm trying to get more carbs in now. Although I'll probably give up and just eat some white rice tonight. Getting all of your carbs in with doing vegetable and fruit is difficult. I need some more planning. I need to buy a bag of potatoes. See, I tried to take that shadow a little darker and now I'm not as into it. So I'm going to grab just to kind of glaze over it. And again, I'm going to thin my paint and I'm just going to brush it right over that shadow. And it's going to blend right in. Boom. Yeah, I just took it a little bit too. Because remember, anything on upper surface, and this has some serious striations and between these tendons standing out, and that's why there's that dark dramatic shadow there. But we don't need to take it that dark. Yes. Yeah. I was often a pantser DM too. I would have a basic storyline, I would know my NPCs, I would know where I was, and I would have an adventure planned, but I would also be ready to just go off the rails because so many D&D games do. I think the best DMs are pantser DMs. And now we'll bring our highest highlights up onto some of these these areas that are really strongly standing out. I'm not going to do it down here. I'm just going to keep my glacier blue on that lowest one there. I came up with a couple of things for my big boss fight in North of the Wind, but I'm still thinking. Probably I just need to start writing it again, and then I'll get an idea as I go. So just getting higher highlights, working up there, and now we get that very dramatic transition there. It's weird. A lot of people hate advertising the most when they're, when they're self-published authors. They say that's what they hate the most. But I think my hate point, I like setting up ads. I like parsing the data. My hate point is going back and editing my back matter, like going through and hauling the book out again and making sure that my email sequence, is like good and stuff like that. I just hate it. I have to do it right now, though. I have to go back and look at my mailing list sequence and check my back matters and make sure that they all point to the next book and, all that drudgy stuff. I'll probably do that the coming weekend because I think I'm going to be very busy this week with Patreon. Painting the bottom of these fingers with Twilight Shadows so that they're not completely unpainted. They're just not as light as the other parts. And I do want that slight highlight on the top edge. And I want to get the hand on the back here. I totally haven't gotten, you see, it's all black and white primer. Yeah, it's just kind of crappy that your overtime is kind of mandatory. Kodiak. I mean, it's good for your, if you're trying to get, finances, it's good when you're trying to, pay off debt and get an emergency fund saved up and stuff like that. But then it ceases to be good once you've accomplished those things. It can be kind of soul-killing. I feel like this comes back. I'm actually, the book I was reading has started talking about how productivity is like a virtue in our society, but that it has bad repercussions when people burn out, and also bad repercussions in that then we feel guilty when we're not being productive, when we shouldn't. We aren't designed to go all the time. And I'm there because, he's talking about how people who have a good work ethic, how a good work ethic is supposed to be an awesome thing in our society. But then, if you lose your job, as I did back when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and you get depressed, right? You feel like it impacts your self-worth a lot, and it's not wait a minute, it's just a job. Why is it affecting me this way, right? But it's how we're kind of tuned in today's society. If you don't have a good work ethic, that's saying something terrible about you, right? And yet at the same time, people who can do their jobs in 20 hours feel guilty that they can do their jobs in 20 hours a week, freelancers and stuff. They have to deprogram themselves from I have to work 40 hours a week to be a worthy person. Yeah, you put, exactly. I really enjoyed the job I got downsized from. It was probably I was working for the Relay for the hearing and speech impaired. It was the first time I'd worked for a nonprofit and the first time I'd worked for a company I felt like I really, believed in what they did. They did a service for the community and the world, and I loved that feeling. But I was the least senior supervisor, so when they had to make a cut, boom. It really compromised me for a while. I got very depressed. But, I mean, I'm a better, more well-rounded person now. Yeah, I mean that's great. And if I had to go, like if my Patreon tanked tomorrow and I had to go back and get a real job in the real world, I would definitely look for a nonprofit. There's a ton of them out here too, because there's always nonprofit startups. I'm in Startup City, out here in the old Bay Area. But hopefully it won't come to that. Hopefully the Patreon, continues being good, or the books take off, or both. I'd say I put in 40 hours a week. It's just spread between my writing and my painting. There we go. That hand is looking pretty good. I feel like, looking at my light, yeah, that the bottom of the hand is very much turned under, so it shouldn't be getting a lot of light. When it's hard because when we're looking at it like this, it helps when you're painting the model to look at it from the angle of the person who's going to be staring at your model, right? Because when I look at it, I'm looking at it more straight, but most people are going to be looking at it like this, and when I turn it like that, it's very evident that this part of the hand is in shadow, right? So you've got to, every once in a while, especially because we're often looking at the model straight on or from an unusual angle in the lighting, you got to kind of reorient yourself and go, oh, all right, yeah, this would be in shadow. Yeah, Redlings? Cool. Yeah, I keep wondering if David's going to hit the point where he wants to retire early. The thing is, David enjoys his job, so there's no reason to quit if you enjoy your job, right? I'm going to just bring in a little bit more shadow down here. I'm using my Black Knight liner to just glaze a little bit, layer a little bit, just to take that down a little bit more. I mean, I always joke, I'm pretty much doing now what I would do if I was retired anyway. I mean, maybe if I was truly retired, I would take my streaming down for you guys to a couple days a week. Just because I could use, like, this morning time. This time is, like, some of my most productive time. And I would love to get it back for my writing. Just to be absolutely honest. I love you all, but I would probably stream a little less, and I would cut my Patreon tiers down to maybe 2. And then I would just keep doing what I'm doing. If I was retired, that'd be like... Yeah. Yep. That's pretty cool, Crowley. Yeah, that's for sure a thing, Redlings. Like, I loved working for Reaper, and Reaper was always very awesome to me, but at the time where David and when my divorce hit and I started talking to David and, all that, I had been with Reaper for, 17 years, and for much of it I'd been doing the same job, and I felt like there wasn't that much more I could do. Like, no, there wasn't any more I could progress. I'd kind of risen to the top of what I was doing, and now it was just like, constantly mixing paint and restocking the department, which was fine, and, but it was, it was a job, and I enjoyed working for Reaper, but at the same time, I was feeling kind of burnt, right? Yeah. And it's not the fault of the company in that case. It's just and some people can do the same thing for their whole lives and be happy, but my brain always has liked progress, and so it was frustrating to me to feel like I couldn't really go anywhere from where I was. Yeah, see, that's just it. If David retires, I can work from anywhere. Right. Yeah, never paint in full sunlight, actually. It like totally shows you, like I think the sunlight creates artifacts. Like, it will instantly show you all of your bad blends and everything. But it'll show you to the point where you can't fix them. Like, it's very demoralizing to look at your model in sunlight. Very cool, Koro. But yeah, that is the great thing about what I do. It's one of the things I love the most is that, you know, I can do it from anywhere. That was always kind of the dream with miniature painting for a living. Like that was always, you know, a lot of people. There were a lot of painters in like Poland and like Eastern Europe who like were able to make it work just because they were living in a really like they didn't need much income to have a good life in those places, and so it really worked for them. But yeah, I don't think David wants to move to Hawaii. He would get sick of the lack of seasons. I really love it, but we're more likely to move to somewhere like Colorado. If we move. Maybe I could talk him into Idaho. I could paint minis outdoors in Hawaii. I have painted outdoors, but only in like shade. Because usually then the bounce light is good enough. But yeah, I like Colorado, and it would be closer to Bridget. I could actually drive to see her. It's a bunch of islands, and they're all so different. Yeah. But I get it. I get it. I'm past. I've done so much road tripping in my life at this point that I'm okay with, like, flying out and be stuck on... Like, I would totally fly out to Hawaii during the winter and just be stuck in Hawaii for 3 months and be a very happy Anne. If I snowbirded, that's what I would want to do. Alright, just taking some of that glacier blue and starting to block in this area over here now that we've got that arm looking pretty good. But yeah, David would want to be somewhere he could ski. I get it. I'd have to deal with cold weather again. But the altitude would be good for my running practice, so we could compromise. We could do that. We'll see. We're several years off. We're many years off probably, so I'm much closer to retirement age than he is. So we'll see what I can do. We'll see what I can do in the coming 7 years. Seven more books, hypothetically. So I'm just blocking in with the glacier blue. Everywhere I see the white primer, we're almost to the end of the stream. Thank God I don't have to go to the store or do anything today. I'm just like, gotta get Kiki for a walk and get onto my Patreon PDF. So yeah, just kind of creeping in and putting down. I don't think I want to work on the arm yet. I think I'm going to do the side of the torso here. Alrighty. And I'm just going to block in my shadows with the Twilight Blue for now. Or Twilight Shadows with 2.0. And then to link those two, we're going to grab the mixture of those two colors and just kind of paint that over the intervening zone. And a little wet blend out here. So a little bit more light on this side of the model because the way his torso is turning. So I can get a little bit more of the musculature in here. Getting a nice blend in here, that's nice. There we go, we're coming along. So we still need to pop up highlights actually across this whole thing, I think. But that's coming along really nice. So the arm was more work just because there's all those little muscle groups. And that takes time to get all that little detail and stuff on the hand and the arm. But he's coming along. We'll get up to his head eventually. And I hope you guys are enjoying this guy. Tomorrow, we're back to Horsey Guy, and we'll start doing some NMM on the armor. Like I said, I'm not sure on Horsey Guy how long we're going to actually work on him. I might actually put him aside till next year's Halloween. I'm kind of feeling like meh on him, like as far as my enthusiasm for painting him. Because I really wanted to paint the horse. And now the guy, I'm just like meh. So we'll do at least some NMM on Horsey Guy tomorrow, but then I may actually replace him with somebody new. Somebody who is more rowery. Somebody who we can do fur patterns on. Mr. Face Cat. By Chris Lewis. I have some ideas. On this. So, yeah, I'm inclined to put aside Horsey Dude and do Face Cat. That's kind of my goal, I think. We'll paint Horse Guy tomorrow, but after that, Face Cat. That's where I'm at. Yep, we're gonna ghost the ghosty guy. I wanted to paint the horse. I got to paint the horse. I'm done. We'll probably pick him up again next Halloween, honestly, because he's a spooky model, and it's easy to just go back and start working on him. And at that point, I'll have, not be sick of him or anything. I'll be like, oh, okay, let's do this. So that's a very likely thing to happen. Yeah, we can do a kitty. That's what I was thinking. I kind of want to do him. Yeah, I've got some ideas. Let's just say I've got some ideas. Quindy will be happy about some of it. Yeah, I know, spooky models. We'll do a kitty. We'll do a kitty and we'll have some fun. We'll paint him in a very, very unusual color. Alrighty, so tomorrow Horsey Guy, but after that I'll swap him out for kitty. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you have a lovely day. Thank you for modding, Quindy. I haven't seen John in the chat, but thank you, John, if you're here too. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, all right? Have a lovely one, even though it's Monday. Yeah, I love the Ogre Mage. I think he's super cool. And I love that I get to paint blue skin finally. Yep. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.